Hello, Shomai, and welcome to another edition of Radio YesCymru, the podcast which discusses news and views about independence and Welsh independence with you. My name is Sean Robbins, and my guest today is Anna Arqué, who's from ICEC, which is the International Commission of European Citizens. But more importantly, maybe for YesCymru viewers and listeners, is Anna will be talking at the talk about independence, the Rally of Independence in Bari on the 26th of April. She's also talking the night before in discussion about economics of independence. So Anna, that's a very long introduction. Welcome, Croeso, to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very happy. A pleasure to be here with you, Sean, and this fantastic radio podcast of YesCymru.
Good. And then just to explain to the viewers on Radio YesCymru, Anna has a little bit of a cold, so her voice sounds very husky, but she'll be persevering on with the discussion. Okay, Anna, there's loads of things to discuss, probably too much, so I will bore you in Bari with more questions. But for the viewers, if you'd like to just tell us where the situation is now with the Catalan independence campaign.
Right. Well, at the moment, it's obvious that we are not in the best moment in terms of representation because the independentist parties lost the majority in the parliament. So now it's the socialists, the Spanish socialists, the ones that they are ruling our government, and but I guess what is interesting is to understand why this has happened. And the reason is because after the events of surrounding all around the 1st of October in 2017, finally, they lots, like hundreds of thousands of independentists, they decided not to vote for any of the political parties aiming to represent independent movement, and this is why they lost, and the unionists are ruling the country at the moment. So it's not the most enthusiastic panorama in this sense, in this perspective of political parties, but in terms of the popular support, we're just the same. We have not decreased the support for independence. So basically what happened is that at the moment, media or political parties are not really pushing for independence. So that makes that any initiative, popular grassroots initiative, is not covered as much as it used to when politicians agreed to promote the initiatives in the country.
Excellent, good. So, I mean, just so people understand, so there's a referendum on Catalan independence quite soon after the Scottish one. That, well, the majority of people who voted for it,
Yes.
and actually a plurality as well. But the Spanish said if you didn't turn up to vote, then it counted as a no, essentially, and they didn't recognise it. So we now have a government in the Catalan Parliament, which, as I said, is run by the unionist parties. But essentially, what you're saying, Anna, is the pro-independence people, hundreds of thousands, have stayed at home. They didn't vote. So there's a
Exactly.
right.
But yeah, because the point is that we meant to have a referendum in 2014, just
Yeah.
as the Scots. And the president back then of Catalonia did announce it. And he even said in the Catalan parliament that we were going to use the Scottish question. But then things started to change, and he passed from saying a referendum to be popular consultation, and finally it was just like a question, and they took all the political force or the binding of the referendum. So therefore, it was a little bit like a poll, right? And
Yeah.
but Catalans, so we didn't, well, they portray it like if that was the referendum, but some of us, we were keep on saying that was not the referendum. So finally, when I guess they saw that people wouldn't stop, They in 2015 they include in their manifesto, in the electoral program, all of them in a partnership of political parties for independence that they allied to go together. They include that in 18 months they were going to declare independence. But of course, that was a little bit fine. A lot of people, of course, believe it, and that's why they got huge majorities in the parliament to actually do that. But many of us, we actually thought that that was a little bit to declare independence. We actually didn't saw that coming. So when the pressure, the popular pressure was keeping, they finally decided to announce we were finally going to have a proper binding, official, formal referendum in 2017. But for the surprise of many, when they did it in such a manner that everybody believed, they did the laws. So in 48 hours, if the yes win, we're going to declare independence. They did like all what you could believe that this was going for real. But then they actually weren't, because people put all of what we've got. People were there, not only working, not only with their thought, not only with the organization, but also putting their bodies when the Spanish police came and started to hit us, because they believed them. But then so we won, we voted, and we won the referendum. But they decided to disobey Catalan popular vote and obey what the state was saying. They're saying that that was not valid, and they believed the threats that they were going to send us the military, and it was going to be a shred of blood in the streets, they said, and they believed that, so they disobey our democracy, our democratic vote, and that was very shocking, very, very shocking, because you may think, well, but that's fair enough, right? I mean, that's like very prudent. I mean, I understand that people outside Catalonia may actually seem like a point of sense, no? But things, I think they need to be understood from the point of view of those who years and years, they were giving all their spare time to build this momentum for the referendum, which are the Catalan society. And the point is that it was not a surprise for the people that actually the Spanish state react the way they did react. What surprised us was that Catalan politicians, they declare that that was a surprise for them. That it was not understood, because you say, how can it be a surprise if you're a Catalan, you know about history, what did you expect? So it was a little bit irresponsible, because we can't believe they were ignorant of this fact. It was really irresponsible to take the whole Catalonia to do a binding referendum within the Spanish state for independence without having any plan of contention for the violence that for sure was going to come from the Spanish state. So that's why years after, because the shock was important. I mean, many people actually got into depression. It was very sad seeing how people believed them completely, and it took us years. And the first reaction has been not to vote for them, which.
So just to make sure Welsh and viewers and watchers understand. So there's a pro-independence party in Catalonia, Esquerra Republicana, which is aligned with Plaid Cymru. So broadly, they won the election on a mandate to have a referendum. The referendum was called. The Spanish.
But not only them. No, excuse me, Sean.
No.
The ones that they won the elections were Esquerra Republicana with Junts, with La CUP. Well, there was three big political parties for independence.
So referendum was held. I went to the first referendum as someone to check the voting was consistent and everything. And
it was
just
not a referendum. You mean the
consultation.
9N of 2014?
Yes, that's it.
Okay,
Yes,
but that was not it was a consultation.
Yes, so I was there as an observer. So this is the referendum was held in 2017. The Spanish state, so that people understand, say that it's unconstitutional to break up the Spanish state. So so they said, well, to understand that people cannot. It's the Spanish state cannot be divided. This is the argument I hear from the Spanish press, that is unconstitutional.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
whatever.
so this is,
of course, the Spanish state, as I
of
guess,
course.
the better together from Westminster,
Yes.
or yes, if we read what the states say, we better just use our time doing other things. Because
So
obviously they have.
So I think this is a difference between Scotland and Spain. Spain wouldn't negotiate anything like the Scottish referendum, where we can decide if Scotland votes independence, we'll sort of accept it. And I think the Spanish state would not accept that. So that's why I'm surprised then when you say that the politicians who read the campaign didn't expect the Spanish state. I mean, this is obvious. The Spanish state wouldn't accept the vote. I thought, from my brief understanding of Catalan politics, the Spanish would they say it's like the USA. You cannot break up the USA. You cannot break up Spanish state. So I mean, it was obvious, I think, if they wouldn't accept it. And the tactic was, if you didn't vote, then essentially that was like saying no. So there's a lot of people who were against independence just didn't vote.
Well, Sean, what happened is that I understand that from, and I know, and this is something that obviously we did not make, we should have made a better job with this from the grassroots, because I think one of the big deceptions for people like my profile, like independent, not only independentist, but independent, independentist in Catalonia, that we have always worked in the grassroots movements, is that in somehow we were so busy and so in our own movement that maybe, although we were projecting and we were already saying internationally, look, it will be that Catalan politicians, even if we win, they will not do any attempt to do independence. But reality is that, and sure, for the last months, the running months to the referendum in October 2017, the speeches and the whole, it was so great, it was so enthusiastic, it was such a big momentum that everybody, I mean, it was really difficult to believe that those same politicians were not going to actually take through the winning vote from the people. So I understand that. But the point is that as soon as they didn't, internationally, what struck us as a not weird, but surprised us, is that grassroots movements internationally, they actually assume the official narrative. So all the hundreds of thousands, for not saying millions, of citizens, of everyday people, women, men, young, old, that they, for almost a decade, they gave everything. There was no more theater, there was no more, it was all our time given to the assembly, given to whatever, the demonstrations, the campaigns, everything. Nobody actually had the compassion to just for a moment stop to just propagate the official narrative and actually ask people who were depressed, who were really pissed off, who were not understanding anything, who were shocked, to say what's going on. And I guess that we should have done better, so our colleagues internationally would have given more attention to the people instead of only to the political parties and how they explain what happened. But as I say, it was our fault. We didn't
Well,
arrive
I
to
think
so much.
well, I don't think it's your fault because you're up against a very stubborn state, which doesn't quite recognize Catalan as a language sometimes and Catalonia as a nation. And I
Absolutely.
think people, and they keep that line. And I remember I literally got in touch with a journalist here in Wales, told him before the referendum, but in like 2013, there's big things happening in Catalonia. You can get a flight from Cardiff to Barcelona and back for less than £100. When you just fly there and see the rallies going on, the Som Nació, We Are a Nation rallies at the time. And so trying to get in touch with people in BBC, look, this is a big thing happening. It's exciting. People go on holiday to this place. This isn't sort of a faraway country. And I think there is an acceptance then of the Spanish line that, it's unconstitutional, and people sort of think, oh, well, that's a bad thing. But votes for women were unconstitutional at one time. The Welsh language or Catalan language was unconstitutional. So, I mean, I think you're up against a very powerful state.
But in this sense, I mean, back then we were working very close with the Scottish movement, and actually with Alex Salmond, the president that unfortunately is is not with us anymore. And actually, I mean, and I personally got to have a relation with President Salmond back then, and then over the years, 2 years ago, he was in Catalonia. I invited him to the university, and we were doing a conference. And the reality is that, of course, Spanish state would not recognize Catalonia as a nation and the right to self-determination. But it must be said that Scots didn't have it that easy. I mean, Alex Salmond and the team, they had to play like high politics. What happened is that Alex Salmond, I think, he knew how to, he was enormous politicians in this sense, and he knew how to make allies whenever it was necessary. And at the end, because it's true that from the beginning the English were okay with that. They were actually, I remember being in Scotland and seeing the newspaper, and I remember one sentence that was really important for me, because of Alex Salmond, because it was a brief of what is the most essential for all of us. And he said, because the English were against it, he said, look, we have a mandate, a sovereign mandate of the Scottish Parliament. So all the rest are technicalities. And to solve technicalities is what democracy is about. And that's it. And that was excellent. And he was showing that whatever, of course, the Scotland Act didn't give us the power to do a referendum. Scottish also had lots of problems in this. What happened is the English are more sophisticated in this sense, and maybe they didn't want to take the discussion to the public, not like the Spanish, which in this sense maybe are more basic, or they're more proud, or they like to take it to the public, the battle. So I don't think there's such great difference. And I have been explaining this for a long time, because at the end of the day, it's not true. The Spanish Constitution signed all the international treaties that includes self-determination, because if not, after the Frankies, that we must remember that was only like in the 70s of last century. We were still in a dictatorship. When the dictator died, in order for Spain to become in the family of democracies, they had to sign all these treaties that everybody has signed. So, of course, there's a way, because the universal rights are superior to any local state law. And we have seen this later with all the sentences, court sentences that they have come about this surrounding the exiles and the prison or whatever. So this narrative is like, it has worked very well, but I think we shouldn't feed it anymore, because actually it's not true. We can't dismantle it because if we believe in the universal rights and democracy, and we believe that nations have self-determination, then we're, uh, so it's very sometimes it feels like if Catalans um, only have the Spanish to battle against, but this has not been the case. Spain, of course, but that we all knew. That's a surprise when politicians said, oh, we didn't expect violence. What our big issue has been here in Catalonia with our own political parties. And this, it's not that simple and that straightforward narrative for everybody to understand. It's more complicated. And of course, we need more time to talk about it. But I can't just, Spain is Spain. We know France is France. And we know that. The point is that there was a process in Catalonia. We approved laws. We did all what it was meant to take us to have an independence if we want it. We want it, and then there was the excuse that the Spanish will come and kill us, and and Catalans just didn't buy it. The majority of us at the moment, everybody was in shock. And then the politicians, sadly, of course, they went to jail. Others, they went to outside Catalonia. This is not something anybody likes, of course. But the most important thing is the people. And the people were deceived. And that's something
Right.
that we are living now. That's why we don't have an independence majority in the parliament, because people stop voting for them.
Right. Okay. So I mean, yeah. So let's move on to that. So the situation now is, there are parties who are broadly pro-independence, but at the moment in the Catalan Parliament, the Spanish socialists, which has a Catalan branch like the Labour Party here in Wales, are governing the country, and I presume they have no plans for an independence referendum there. I mean, what is the plans now? So you're saying essentially, it sounds to me some people are very, very disappointed. They decided that they're not going to turn up. They're not going to do anything. People are tired. I think it takes about 10 years for people to come over something like a big referendum in any case. So what's the strategy now in Catalonia in terms of fighting for independence? I mean, is there a strategy? Is there a new party, or is it working through the existing parties? What do you say?
Yeah, the majority, the opinion is that it needs to be a change on leadership. The same people that took us to this Atsuka, to this cul-de-sac, people just don't, that's why they don't vote them. So basically, we need new ideas, new people, new charisma to take it forward, because the people is still there. Independence
So
is
where
still a
is, I
dream.
mean, we've just had a poll here in Wales last week where support for independence is around 41%, and it becomes 51% if it means joining the EU. Now, I don't, it doesn't feel like that to me. So I'm very glad to see these polls, but I take
It's
them
excellent.
with an element. Yeah, it's
Congratulations.
excellent,
That's
but
really good.
I think
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like that to me. So I think there's a lot
Okay.
of don't knows there, and so I think it's good news. It's grown incredibly in the last 10 years, thanks to YesCymru and people on the streets talking to people. But I mean, it's grown. So where's the polling now in terms of independence for Catalonia? What is about the percentage of people who support independent Catalonia?
Well, actually, I'm sorry, but to tell you the truth, it's a long time I don't look at the polls, because
Okay.
what the polls are gonna, I mean, I don't really, whatever, probably they're half-half. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So I
sounds to
mean,
me
so is it? I
that they
mean,
have said that it's half-half, but yeah, but look, but uh, when something so big has happened,
hmm,
and people are ready to actually not vote, even though they are really independentists. It shows that people, doesn't matter. It needs a change. because people feel completely deceived by the current politicians. So new political parties have emerged, but whatever, what we need is actually, first of all, for me, what it really worries me is that all these, for me, what worries me is that all these people that they have not voted, um, we have to be careful because we are in the risk for them to become very cynical and that stop believing in anybody or any campaign or anything. They these people, this leadership has actually get to burn out many good spirits, and that's something that we are working. So okay, I'm somebody that I was criticizing how we were doing things while we were doing it because some things didn't make sense, but whatever. One day we can make it more in detail what happened in Catalonia. But what I don't agree is in actually now thinking that everything is wrong, everything needs to be burnt. I don't believe in that because I believe that that leadership has the majority of them were good independentists that they just, in my opinion, they took a wrong strategy. But we can't just dismiss everybody. We need all of us. So we need
So what
to
is the strategy? I mean, because I remember when YesCymru was founded around 2014, 15, 16, I remember discussing in a meeting, we had a very small meeting when we were discussing forming an independence movement. We wanted to have something like you had in Catalonia where the local towns, the municipality were declaring for independence. This was around 2015, I think 2014. So there's loads of huge stuff going on, very mass campaigns, very visual campaigns with music, with things happening on the street. And that obviously created a huge movement and huge marches. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people marching. So I mean, for people in Wales, this is absolutely phenomenal. We can't comprehend things of this size. So I mean, that obviously worked in terms of getting people activated, working for independence. What would you say would be the strategy now? More something similar, updated, of course, or is it more through the political parties? I mean, there's a risk of having a new party, or do you work through Esquerra, or how do you think? And also, I think looking at Catalonia's maybe changed the last 10 years as well. Actually, the makeup of the country as well. So how would a new independence movement look, do you think? How is it looking?
Well, you're right that the turning point was in 2009. From 2009 to 2011, I was part of the coordination of the popular referendums, and we did 555 referendums in different municipalities. And that was the turning point. And that was a grassroots movement that we kind of, it was 5 people that we started, and then it kept on growing and growing and growing. So that was fantastic in a very horizontal, it was not verticalized. It was so that, the only way that in Catalonia things can work. Now, what happened is that back then, the great majority of people that joined the movement, they were coming from the house. They were not coming from a political party. They were not coming from an association. So that energy was like pure, was like new. After from 2009 to 2025, good Lord, I mean, so many years have passed, and people now are not the same. So we do need to find something that makes that click again, and that will not doing same things, I think. I mean, there's some lessons I have been learned. I also think that when we were doing this process, Scotland, Catalonia, Flanders, Euskal Herria, that we got these majorities, and Wales and other movements were still not that ready. But now, maybe it's time for us to just see how things grow, and maybe Wales and others are the ones that now is your turn to
I
see.
think we got some way to
To
go.
see how well. Actually, I mean, it's amazing. 41% is great. So, I mean, it doesn't need always to be these countries, the ones we are leading. We did for a time. Now maybe it's your time. What
Yeah.
is for sure is that there is a way also for Catalans. But in Catalonia, there's many wounds and people are
Yes.
very hurt. So now, of course, there's a lot of division. And what we need to do is to see which new project or maybe political party or maybe new leadership can actually enthusiast everybody again. But there's some lessons. For example, in order to achieve independence, it's not enough being independent.
Yeah.
You need to be prepared. You're not prepared like you have prepared yourself. No, you need to be. You need to have the will to actually do independence, whatever
Yeah.
the price. I mean, you have to go for it. And it looks like our leadership could well be all independentist, but maybe they were not really disposed to actually do independence.
Yeah.
So that's something that all of us, also people watching Catalonia, should think, well, let's take note of this. And but I'm positive because I go around the country doing lots of talks and lots of meetings with many associations, many people, and everybody's just ready for it, just to go for it. But we need to understand that from the outside, the process of Catalonia, I think, was kind of romanticized or idealized in the terms of it was really huge on logistics. So everybody saw like huge numbers, but the important questions are, yeah, but these people were actually trained to be activists, or they were trained just to fill that job that political parties wanted to be done. Because the reality is that the important thing is to make activists. And when the time came and they declared independence, and then they canceled the independence 8 seconds later, the assembly asked people to go home. And what happened? People went home. That's not odd.
Yeah.
That means that the movement was created for some objectives and not actually to build activism. Because many of us, thousands, we stayed and we said, what do you mean? Independence is ours. What do you mean
Yeah.
we go home? We don't go home. We won. We put our bodies, we put our soul, we put our stomachs, we put years and years. What do you mean we go home? We don't go home. We knew about this, about Spain. What are you guys doing? But the big numbers, which were not trained to be activists, but just doing the jobs, they obeyed. So, so that's
Yeah,
also a
I think
lesson to be learned.
maybe were people afraid that there would be bloodshed, that people
No,
would be killed, and maybe the government didn't want that on their hands, or the Catalan government didn't want to be held responsible for that.
of course, but that's we go to the beginning. Yeah, that's very easy to say, and everybody with a little bit prudent would think exactly. So they were prudent, they were good people, they were, but okay, but we are not playing chess here. I mean, we are doing an independence. What did
Yeah.
you expect? That's really anybody internationally expect Spain to stay still while Catalans are winning independence. Well, maybe internationally because you don't have any obligation to know about history. But
Yeah.
Catalans, the leadership, the political leadership, you think it's okay for them not to have a plan of contention? The people that we were working internationally, and we were actually talking about this, and we were actually shocked to see that they didn't have anything prepared for when Spain came to us, because journalists all the weeks before or months before that were interviewing us, BBC, CNN, whatever, all over the world, but all over, the question was, what are you going to do if Spain comes with violence? how come the journalists are asking you this?
Yeah.
And as a leadership of a country, you actually have not contemplated this.
Yeah.
So when we were saying that they were not actually they didn't have any intention to do independence, at that moment sounded very harsh. But then days after the referendum and weeks after, they start saying, well, Anna, but the intention was never to do the independence, it was
Okay.
to gain more power. So
Right. So
when
there's
people
less.
understood it, when
Yeah.
people have listened that actually the same politicians were saying this, uh, I mean, it's absolutely intolerable. I mean, so of course Catalans are still in shock because that was huge, a huge slap.
Yeah.
And but doesn't matter. We will get there. That's for sure.
So I mean that's very interesting. So what you're saying that the movement itself has to be ready for all eventualities and has to educate its membership in that, and has to have the guts basically to see it through.
Yeah.
Which does cause, certainly in the case of Catalonia, does call for a lot of personal bravery, because the Spanish state will, well, as we saw, were very brutal in the way they attacked people. So I
Yeah,
mean,
but we don't know that. I mean,
yeah,
the more you so the more you prepare for that, the
yeah,
less chances are that they will. But if you don't prepare, they only have to do boo, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's it. So we'll see about that. The reality is that they came with some polices hitting us, and that's
yeah,
it, because nobody was prepared with the leadership. The
yeah,
politician didn't actually did their job properly. So unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say that, but
yeah. So I mean, I think we'll move on a little bit and we'll come towards the end of the discussion. I think one of the points I've noticed when I've been in Catalonia, one thing I remember, I was in the Atena in Barcelona, which is like, I'm not saying it properly, but it's like some kind of a library and society founded in the 19th
Ateneo,
century. Yeah,
Ateneo,
Ateneo. Yes,
Ateneo
Ateneo. So
Barcelonès.
yeah, and
So
this is where Catalan businessmen set up their own societies. This is something we haven't had in Wales. And I think I'm struck also by the need and the imperative need for your own independent institutions and economic institutions, which I think you have more of in Catalonia and certainly deeper than in Wales. And I think going on to a discussion on Friday night in Barry on the 25th of April, um, you're going to be talking about the economy. So, I mean, are these again lessons you've learned in Catalonia in terms of building up the economy, building up a national economy, which has its own independent institutions, but also generates wealth, and then is making the case for independence easier for you? What's the sort of economic independence argument with Catalonia?
well, I'm afraid that in Catalonia the answer is not as straightforward as
Right.
it may be the case for Wales or Scotland
Mm,
or
mm,
Ireland, because for what I've been able, mainly in Scotland, the majority of feeling is a left wing socialist.
yeah.
In Catalonia, it's a very transversal. Independence is not left wing, it's not right wing, it's not
Right.
liberal, it's not communist, it's not libertarian, it's everything. So we have people from all walks of life. That makes
Yeah.
it difficult for us to actually say, okay, once independent, this is what we want in
Right.
terms of industry policies or investment, or
Yeah.
because we can't, because actually this is going to be decided once all of us together has gained independence. And
Yeah.
once we have proclaimed independence, then there's going to be a first elections for the new government of the Catalan independent state. And then every political party will have to
Yeah.
convince us that their manifesto or their ideology is the best one for Catalonia. And that is going to be a very, very interesting moment, because really then we're going to be seeing the pure debates on sovereignty, because we can. At the moment, it's all talk, because whatever people, you can have many debates, but at the end of the day, in Catalonia, we have approved the laws, and then the Spanish, for example, against fracking or in favor of against the poverty, energetic poverty, this and that and that. So you can say very rights orientated and left, and the Spanish state said, "Oh no, you can't do that. It's illegal," and they illegalized our laws. So if you don't have sovereignty, for a country like Catalonia, that we have so many ideologies giving support to independence, it's kind of academic because
right. So that's one difference to Wales. So the movement in Wales is by and large on the left, with various shades, more left wing than others. But I mean, that's been the sort of mainstream of the Welsh national movement since the 19th century, which is again a difference between Wales and Catalonia, and also the Basque Country as well. So we haven't had that sort of entrepreneurial or mercantile middle class, which has been supportive of the national cause in the same sense. So I mean, and I remember during the referendum you had, to me, it's absolutely crazy that people are saying, well, can Catalonia be independent? And you think the economy is the same size as Switzerland. This is absolutely crazy stuff. This is a very, very rich part of Europe. Everything going for it. But even then, and it's quite instructive when people say, can Wales be independent? They exactly say, people asking, can Scotland be independent? And if Kuwait was not independent, they would say Kuwait or Norway would be too poor to be independent. So this is nonsense, really, this argument of independence. But I would be interested to hear a bit more about what you would like to discuss in Barry on the Friday night in the economics discussion. I mean, do you think there are things to learn from there in terms of what is economic independence, or what are the thinking there in Catalonia about that? I mean, the discussion we've had on Radio YesCymru is that should there be a Welsh currency? Some people in favour, some say we can go with the euro, or some will stay with sterling. What's the view in Catalonia?
I'm smiling, sorry, Sean, because all of these questions, we have actually put them off after when we win independence, because we didn't want any topic to divide us. Because look, in Catalonia, what has happened also is that you take a topic like in within EU or outside EU, this before Brexit, or when we were all with EFTA, and but then some of the people in the UK, then suddenly they wanted to be in the EU because the English went out. So that was also funny movements, tactical movements going on there. But anyway, when these questions raise up, what happened? And then you have somebody on the left wing saying, "Oh no. If we're going to be independent in a liberal Catalonia, I'm not independentist." Or if it was the way around, if it's going to be a socialist or communist, I don't want. So it was a nightmare for the ones that we are not in a political party. We said we can't go on like this. So doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. At the moment, we can't do any of this. So let's achieve independence. And after that, we will have these debates. So really, it's as strong as I'm telling you. That's why in Catalonia, we actually have not developed many papers or the political parties maybe, but not in the common agora, because people started to argue between themselves.
So what motivates someone then to support independence? Is it just because they feel Catalan, they speak Catalan mostly, and they feel part of the Catalan nation, or is it what else appeals to people?
There are thousand reasons why people want independence. I think, for me, it boils down to the fact that if you're not independent, if you don't have sovereignty, as men and women, we are kind of socially, how to say it, it doesn't sound a little bit like castrated. I mean, we can't develop ourselves. We are people with we are being ruled. So the most important thing is that our people obviously should have the right and not to assume the duty to be sovereign. So we decide everything, even when we are wrong. Like, well, at the moment we have like 65 wars in the world, right? So obviously there's many states that are failing. So we also have the right to be wrong as a state. We don't need to be like the first ones in the class to have it all freely because we can't fail. No, of course we will fail in some things, and we have the right to, like all of them do at the moment. So, but obviously, economics is an important part in terms of, for Catalans, it's very painful to see how so many millions and millions, the plundering that we suffer yearly with our taxes, and we cannot invest in proper education or in many aspects that will increase the welfare of the people, not only Catalans, but people that has come to our country, and they aspire to one day become also Catalans and be part of our community. And at the moment, with so many people coming to Catalonia, 2 million in the recent years attracted to Catalonia, to Barcelona, which of course, like I imagine why. I mean, all of us, we love our countries and we think that they are quality, but there's also other people outside that they also think they're quality. So they come to our country. It's a lot of people, and we don't have the ruling of our economics to make it the best we think it can be made. At the moment, it's not being done properly. And so sovereignty is the most important important piece for wanting independence. It's not like
So I mean,
a
I was going to
particular.
ask about that because obviously this is the other big difference between Catalonia and Wales. I mean, Catalonia is a very rich part of the Spanish state. Wales is not the rich part of the British state. The reason Wales isn't rich is because we don't have independence, and we're not being able to invest and have the powers to do that. I think partly because Catalan has created a stronger business, independent business institutions. You've kept money there and invested locally. We haven't done that. But I am interested in terms of the huge number of people, as you say, moving into Catalonia. Are they indifferent to? Is it something they don't discuss, so it's not interesting for them and not important for them, or are they afraid of independence, or do they take the Spanish side? Do they take the propaganda? Are they supportive of Catalan independence? How does that work? I'm sure there's a lot of different views, of course, but how is that? Because it's such a big chunk, and again, that's interesting to know.
Yeah, that's what you said. I mean, there's from our activism, we have arrived to meet many groups and many people that are completely pro independence. Maybe if there's a community that is a little bit harder for them is the people maybe coming from some countries in South America, because amazingly enough, they actually think the ones that they don't support independence, they actually think they come to the motherland, which is which is amazing, because when you talk with them and you tell them and you know about their families and their origins and how their languages just don't exist, and how they've been treated, it's amazing how they have this feeling.
So Catalonia, there's a lot of people from places like Ecuador, from maybe the poorer parts of South America. So this is something you noticed if you go there.
Lots of them. I mean, for example, the other day I was in a meeting and there were people from Guatemala, and people from Argentina, and people from, I don't know if it was Brazil and Bolivia, and they were like really keen. They were speaking Catalan. They were super pro independence because they see the injustice, right? But other people, if they arrive and they get to a neighborhood and they're surrounded by their own people and they don't mix with the locals, then they only watch the Spanish TV, and it's very difficult then and that is something that they worked very well during the process. I mean, there was many organizations, even political parties were very caring about this. So it's very difficult to say. Now we are in a different moment with globalism and the international scenario, and we'll see. I mean, you have reality. I mean, it's difficult.
Yes. So so we come to the end of the discussion. Thank you, Anna, for making time. As you said, you're part of the ICEC, so International Commission of European Citizens. YesCymru is a member of this. It's a European NGO for groups campaigning for independence for their own nation. So Wales, Scotland, Catalans, Basques. So this is a good thing. This is good to see people discussing ideas. So essentially, you're saying, Anna, the dream of independence in Catalonia is alive. People have been knocked back there. Some people are very disappointed, but they're still there. There needs to be some kind of political leadership from the politicians, but also maybe new ways of looking at campaigning for independence from the grassroots. So things which worked 10, 15 years ago, maybe update that. In terms of the difference between Catalonia and Wales, your independence movement includes people on the left and right, maybe it's a broader spectrum, maybe than we have. And maybe that's indicative of society in Catalonia as well. So some of the discussions we maybe have here are not so relevant with you, or maybe easier or lesser. But then you also have to reach out to people who have moved in from Catalonia. Some people from very poor areas in, say, Guatemala, Ecuador, but other people are very rich. They come from Northern Europe and they want to live in the sun and have a nice job in a bank in Barcelona, not in Nottingham or Germany or whatever. So I mean,
and only speak English. They don't even speak Spanish. They only speak English.
Yeah. So no, they don't even speak Spanish, not even to say of Catalan. So that's another challenge which maybe wasn't so strong 10, 15 years ago. But this is all exciting stuff. I'm very, very glad to hear that the dream is alive. The segadors are still out there ready to fight for Catalonia. This is important. The people out in the fields. I hope when you come to Wales for the rally in Barry on the 26th of April and discussion on 25th, you'll have a good time. I cannot promise the sun, Anna. It's sunny today in Aberystwyth, but you'll be very, very warmly welcomed. I will bring down my Estrella flag with me, which I bought when I was in Barcelona for the referendum, and I'm sure other people will. Anna, Arqué, thanks for making the time to speak to Radio YesCymru. I know the voice isn't as strong because you've been too busy, I think, working for Catalonia and the language. And thanks again for making time to speak to us, and I look forward to meeting you in Barry.
Yeah, the same. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to come to Wales. Yeah.
It'd be good to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks.